3 days ago, my sister sent me a voice note with a smirk. Not her face exactly, just the kind of message that smirks all by itself. Guess who has a little surprise for you? That was it. One line, one audio file. 4 minutes and 23 seconds. I was still sitting at my desk on the 47th floor of Willis Tower, half finished with a quarterly report, the Chicago skyline glowing outside like a postcard I was too tired to appreciate. My name is Karen Ulet. I'm 32 years old, a senior financial analyst, the dependable daughter, the stable one, the woman everyone in my family called when bills were due and life got hard. At least, that's who I thought I was. I pressed play without thinking. The sound was slightly muffled, like a phone left face down on a kitchen counter, dishes in the background, a cabinet closing. My mother's laugh, first light, casual, almost cheerful. She actually thinks we care? All we want is her money. I went completely still. Then my father, amused in that low, familiar way that had once made me feel safe. Karen's always been the easy one. And then my sister Madison, 26 years old, unemployed by choice half the time and finding herself the other half. How long do you think she'll keep paying? My mother answered fast, like she'd rehearsed it. As long as she still needs to feel useful. I don't remember breathing. I don't remember blinking. I just remember staring at the glass wall beside my desk and seeing my reflection look like someone I didn't know. Because in 4 minutes and 23 seconds, 32 years of loyalty rearranged itself into something uglier, clearer, colder. For 8 years, I had sent money home. Mortgage help, medical bills, Madison's tuition, temporary emergencies that never ended. When I finally added it all up later that night, the number came to $384,000. And the worst part wasn't the money. It was hearing them laugh. If respect matters, subscribe. Not because this is entertainment for me, because some of you listening already know what it feels like to be loved only when you're useful. When the audio ended, Madison texted again. Well? I looked at that one word for a long time. Then I typed back 4 of my own. Me too. And that was the moment their game changed. And mine began. That night didn't end when the audio stopped. It just shifted. I got home around 10:30, still in my work clothes, heels abandoned by the door, laptop bag sliding off my shoulder like I didn't have the strength to carry anything else. My apartment was quiet in that heavy, echoing way that usually felt peaceful, but not that night. That night, it felt like proof. Proof that I had built a life where I handled everything alone, while still somehow carrying everyone else too. I didn't turn on the lights right away. I just sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, replaying the recording. Again. And again. And again. Each time, I caught something new. The way my mom didn't hesitate. The way my dad didn't object. The way Madison sounded entertained. Not guilty. Not uncomfortable. Just curious how long it would take me to break. And that part stayed with me longer than anything else. Because some of you listening know this feeling. When you realize the person who hurt you wasn't confused. They were watching. I opened my banking app at 11:12 p.m. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just clinically. Like I was auditing a company I no longer trusted. 8 years of transactions. Thousands of entries. I started building a spreadsheet. Mortgage payments, $2,400 a month. Madison's tuition, paid in full. Emergency transfers labeled things like car repair, medical bill, temporary help. The numbers stacked quietly. No arguments. No explanations. Just facts. By 1:47 a.m., the final total sat at the bottom of my screen. $384,200. I stared at it for a long time. And for the first time, I didn't think, I'm a good daughter. I thought, I was never supposed to stop. That realization didn't come with tears. It came with something quieter. A kind of clarity that feels like grief, but sharper, cleaner, like something inside you finally stopped negotiating. My phone buzzed. Madison again. "You're being weird. It was just a joke." I didn't reply, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to explain myself to her. In that silence, it felt unfamiliar, but it also felt right. At 2:03 a.m., I opened a new email. To Rebecca Torres. Subject: I need help. I didn't write a long explanation. Just one sentence. My family has taken over $380,000 from me, and I just found out why. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Coffee. 8 a.m. Tomorrow. I'm clearing my schedule. I closed my laptop after that, not because I was done thinking, but because something had already started moving. And once you see something clearly, you can't go back to not seeing it. I lay down without changing clothes, staring at the ceiling. No tears. No panic. Just one quiet thought repeating itself over and over. They never loved me the way I thought they did. And right underneath it, something new beginning to form. So what does that change? If you're still here, tell me something honestly. What would you do if the people you trusted most turned out to only value what you give, not who you are? You don't have to have a perfect answer. Just don't lie to yourself about it. Because that's where everything started to change for me. Rebecca was already there when I walked into the cafe. 2 coffees, legal pad open, hair pulled back like she was about to cross-examine someone instead of meet her best friend. That's who she's always been. Prepared, grounded, clear. Everything I hadn't been allowed to be in my own family. Play it, she said. No hug first. No small talk. Just truth. I sat down, hands colder than I expected, and pressed play. The same voices filled the space between us. My mother, my father, Madison, laughing. When it ended, Rebecca didn't speak right away. She just tapped her pen once against the paper, thinking. Then she looked at me. "That's not a misunderstanding," she said quietly. "That's a pattern." Something in my chest tightened. Not because I didn't know that, but because hearing someone else say it made it real in a different way. "Is it legal?" I asked. "The recording." "Yes," she said. "Illinois is a one-party consent state. Your sister was there. She can record it. And if she sent it to you voluntarily?" She paused. "It's usable." Usable. The word felt strange. Like my pain had suddenly become evidence. Rebecca reached her hand across the table, steady and warm. "I'm really sorry, Karen." I nodded, but I didn't cry. "Not yet." "What do I do?" I asked. And I meant it. Not emotionally. Logistically. Because when you've spent years solving everyone else's problems, you don't automatically know how to solve your own. Rebecca didn't hesitate. "First, you stop the bleeding." I blinked. "What?" "The money," she said. "You cut off access immediately. Freeze the card. Cancel anything they've put in your name. No warnings." No warnings. That part echoed. Because my whole life had been built on giving warnings. On softening things. On making sure nobody else felt uncomfortable even when I was. "And then?" I asked. She studied me for a second. "Then you decide what outcome you actually want. Not revenge. Not punishment. Outcome." That word landed differently. Because some of you listening already understand this. When you've been hurt by people you love, it's not always about destroying them. Sometimes it's just about finally being seen clearly. "I don't think I want to hurt them," I said slowly. Rebecca nodded. "I didn't think you would. I hesitated. I don't want to keep living like this." And there it was. Not anger. Not revenge. Just exhaustion. Rebecca leaned back slightly. "Good," she said. "That's where real decisions come from." She flipped the page on her legal pad. "Step 1, she said. Today you freeze that credit card." I nodded. "Step 2, you cancel anything they booked without your permission." Another nod. "Step 3, she said, looking directly at me now. "You stop sending money." That one took a second longer. Not because I disagreed, but because it felt irreversible, like stepping off something with no way back. You don't owe them access to you, she added, softer now. Not financially, not emotionally, not automatically. I let that sit, because no one in my family had ever said anything like that. Not once. We finished our coffee in silence after that. Not awkward silence, just processing. Before I left, Rebecca said one more thing. Whatever you choose next, she said, make sure it's something you can live with, not something they trained you to tolerate. I walked back out into the Chicago morning, with that sentence still in my head. And for the first time in 8 years, I wasn't thinking about what my family needed. I was thinking about what I needed to stop. I didn't wait. That was the first difference. Usually, I would think things through. Give it a few days. Prepare the right tone, the right words, the least disruptive way to fix a problem that wasn't mine to begin with. But this time, I didn't ask for permission to act. At 8:42 a.m., I called the bank from my desk. My voice sounded calm, professional, like I was handling any other financial issue. I need to freeze my credit card ending in 4,721 immediately. Security questions. Mother's maiden name. Street I grew up on. The irony didn't miss me. The same family details that once meant belonging, now just access points I was closing. Your card has been frozen, Miss Ulet. Is there anything else? Yes, I said. Remove all authorized users. Pause. Typing. Done. I hung up and stared at my screen. That was it. No argument, no guilt, no one asking me to reconsider. Just done. 8 years of access cut off in under 5 minutes. At 9:05 a.m., I made the second call. Liberty Travel. I need to cancel a reservation, I said. Booked under Patricia Ulet. The agent pulled it up. Yes, I see a European tour 3 weeks, multiple cities. I didn't authorize that charge, I said. Another pause. More typing. You're within the modification window, she said. You'll receive a full refund of $28,450 within 5 to 7 business days. I closed my eyes for a second. $28,450. Just decided for me. Announced for me. Spent in my name. And somehow, I was supposed to smile and present it like a loving daughter. Process the cancellation, I said. It's done. 2 calls. Less than 30 minutes. And something that had controlled my life for years was suddenly no longer automatic. At 9:32 a.m., my phone buzzed. Decline transaction. Nordstrom. $892.17. I stared at the notification. Madison. Trying to use my card. Right after I froze it. The timing almost felt scripted. Like the universe wanted me to see it clearly. This wasn't about helping family. This was usage. And for a second, I waited. Waited for the guilt. The familiar voice in my head. Maybe it's not that serious. Maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you should just fix it quietly. But nothing came. Just quiet. A kind of stillness I didn't recognize yet. And underneath it, certainty. If you've ever reached that point where something finally clicks into place, you know what I mean. It's not loud. It doesn't feel dramatic. It just feels final. At 2:14 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I let it ring twice. That alone was new. Then I answered. Karen, honey, she said, her voice soft in that way that used to mean comfort. Is something wrong with your card? Madison said it got declined. I leaned back in my chair. I froze it. Silence. Just a few seconds. But enough to feel the shift. You froze it? She repeated, a small laugh following. Right before our anniversary weekend? I'm reviewing my finances, I said. There are charges I didn't authorize. Another pause. Then her tone changed subtle but sharp underneath. The trip? She said. Karen, that's your gift to us. We already told everyone. There it was. Not concern. Not confusion. Presentation. I didn't approve that trip, I said. We were going to tell you, she replied quickly. It was supposed to be a surprise for you to give us. I almost smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was so familiar. The rewriting, the reframing, the quiet expectation that I would just accept it. Mom, I said, steady now. You spent $28,000 on my card without asking. Don't be dramatic, she snapped lightly. It's family. What's yours is ours. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. I just said, what's mine is mine. And for the first time in my life, she didn't have an immediate response. Just silence. And then, a colder voice. I don't know what's gotten into you, she said, but I suggest you figure it out before Sunday. Click. She hung up. I stared at my phone for a moment. Not shaking, not spiraling. Just noticing something I had never experienced before. I had disappointed her. And I was still okay. That should have been the moment I broke. 8 years of conditioning doesn't just disappear in a day. I should have felt panic, guilt, that urgent need to fix things before they escalated. But instead, I felt quiet. Not peaceful. Not yet. Just no longer pulled. At 6:08 p.m., Madison FaceTimed me. I almost didn't answer. But something in me wanted to see her face. To confirm that the voice in that recording belonged to the same person I had defended for years. I picked up. She was sitting in my old bedroom. Lavender walls, same window, same angle. Like time had frozen for her, while I'd been funding her life somewhere else. Well, she said, smirking slightly, you've caused a whole situation. I didn't respond right away. I just looked at her. Really looked this time. You froze the card? She continued. Mom's been freaking out all day. I know, I said. She leaned back casually, like we were talking about something minor. I didn't think you'd actually do anything, she admitted. I thought you'd just react. That word stayed with me. React. Like I was predictable. Manageable. Entertainment. Why did you send me that recording? I asked. She tilted her head. Honestly, she said, I was curious. About what? How far you'd go. I felt something shift again. Not sharp. Not explosive. Just a door closing. Some of you listening have experienced that moment. When someone finally says something honest enough that it removes every last doubt. I thought you'd cry, she continued. Call Mom. Try to fix it like you always do. I nodded slowly. And if I didn't? She shrugged. Then this is more interesting. I let out a small breath. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. You've been using my card, I said. She didn't deny it. Mom added me, she replied. It's not a big deal. It is to me. She rolled her eyes slightly. You make good money, Karen. It's not like it hurts you. That sentence. That exact sentence. I had told myself for years. Word for word. And hearing it come from her, so casually, felt like watching my own thoughts betray me. You don't get to decide what hurts me, I said quietly. She paused. Just for a second. Then she leaned forward. Are you coming Sunday? There it was. The real question. Not about money. Not about truth. About control. I haven't decided, I said. She smiled faintly. You should, she said. Mom's already told everyone you're giving a speech. Of course she had. Also, Madison added, almost as an afterthought, if you don't show up and act normal. She paused, watching me. She said she might call your boss. I didn't react. She found his name, LinkedIn, I think, Madison continued. Said she'd tell him you're not stable right now. There it was. Not subtle anymore. Not hidden. Just pressure. Clean, direct, calculated. I held her gaze. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the older sister trying to guide her. I felt like I was looking at someone who had already chosen who she was going to be. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. She blinked. That wasn't the response she expected. "You're not worried?" she asked. "I am," I said. And I meant it, just not in the way she thought. Because some of you understand this. There's a moment when fear stops controlling you. Not because the threat disappears, but because you finally see the person behind it clearly. "I'll see you Sunday," I added. And then I ended the call. No goodbye. No soft landing. Just done. If this feels familiar, that moment when you realize you've been playing a role in someone else's story, tell me where you're listening from. Not because it fixes anything, but because sometimes being seen, even by strangers, is where things start to shift. That night, I didn't open my banking app. I didn't replay the recording. I didn't try to plan 10 steps ahead. I just sat in the quiet and let one thought settle fully for the first time. I wasn't going to fix this. I was going to face it. Saturday morning felt crowded. Not physically. My apartment was still the same small, quiet, just enough space for one person who didn't spend much time living in it. But my phone? That was different. 8:12 a.m. Aunt Ruth. 8:47 a.m. Uncle Frank. 9:30 a.m. Cousin Lisa. 10:05 a.m. Grandma. Voicemails stacked one after another. Different voices. Same message. "Your mom is really upset. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Family doesn't do this to each other. Please don't make a scene tomorrow." I sat at my kitchen counter, coffee going cold in my hand, listening to each one. Not responding. Just observing. Because something became very clear, very quickly. The story had already been written, and I wasn't the author. In their version. I was unstable. Overwhelmed. Going through something. Not betrayed. Not used. Not lied to for 8 years. Just difficult. And the most unsettling part? How easily everyone accepted it. Some of you know exactly what that feels like. When the truth isn't just ignored. It's replaced. At 11:22 a.m., another message came in. Grandma again. But this time, it wasn't a group call. It was private. I played it. Her voice was quieter than usual. Older. "Karen, it's me," she said. "I don't know everything that's happening. And your mother. She's always had her ways." She paused. "I just want you to be careful. And I want you to know I've seen more than I've said." I sat very still after that. Because that was the first time, in all of this, someone didn't immediately defend my mother. They didn't fully take my side either. But they didn't dismiss me. And sometimes, that's enough to keep you steady. By the afternoon, I had stopped listening to the rest of the messages. Not out of anger. Just capacity. There's only so much noise you can take before it all starts to blur. At 4:10 p.m., I opened my laptop. Not for work. For something else. I created a document. Clean. Simple. Title at the top. Financial summary. Karen Ulet. 8-year record. No emotions. Just numbers. Monthly transfers. Tuition payments. Emergency loans. Dates, amounts, totals. I added screenshots. Bank statements. Transaction confirmations. And then, a transcript. Word for word. The recording. Timestamps included. By the time I finished, it was 12 pages long. I printed everything. Watched the pages slide out one by one. Quiet, precise, real. Then I placed them into a red folder. I don't know why red. Maybe because it felt undeniable. Like something you couldn't easily ignore. At 6:30 p.m., I knocked on Daniel's door. Apartment 4, C. He opened it with that same calm expression he always had. "Hey," he said. "You okay?" I held up the folder slightly. "Can you come with me somewhere tomorrow?" He didn't ask where. Didn't ask why. Just studied my face for a second. Then nodded. "Yeah," he said. "What time?" 5. "I'll be ready." I hesitated for a moment. "You don't have to get involved," I added. "It's family." He gave a small, almost tired smile. "Sometimes that's exactly when you shouldn't be alone." That stayed with me, because for years, I had been surrounded by family, and still completely alone in what I was carrying. That night, I laid the red folder on my table. Didn't open it again. Didn't add anything. Everything that needed to be said was already there. And for the first time, I wasn't preparing to explain myself. I was preparing to stop explaining. If you've ever reached that point where you realize clarity doesn't need volume, just type, "I understand." Because tomorrow, I wasn't going to argue. I was just going to tell the truth. Sunday morning came too quietly. No dramatic buildup. No storm. No sense that something life-changing was waiting at the end of the day. Just stillness. I woke up at 7:10 a.m., earlier than usual, and for a moment I forgot. Forgot about the recording, the calls, the folder sitting on my table. And then it all came back at once. Not like panic. More like, wait. I didn't check my phone. That was intentional. Because I already knew what would be there. More pressure. More versions of the story that didn't include me. Instead, I made coffee. Stood by the window. Watched the city move like it always does. Unbothered, continuous, steady. It struck me then. Everything in my life had been built around keeping things from falling apart. Except me. At 10:02 a.m., my phone rang. "Mom." This time, I answered immediately. Not because I wanted to, because I was done avoiding what was already here. "Karen," she said. No sweetness this time. "No, honey. Just my name." "I'm going to say this once," she continued, "and I expect you to listen carefully." I leaned against the counter. "I'm listening." "You will come today," she said. "You will give the speech I wrote for you. You will present the gift, and you will act like nothing is wrong." Each sentence landed like a command. Not a request. Not a conversation. A script. "I won't be doing that," I said calmly. There was a pause. Then, a shift. Cold. Sharp. "Then I call your boss," she said. No hesitation. I explained that my daughter is unstable, that she's under stress, that she's having episodes. She let that word sit. Episodes. "I found his number," she added. "Richard Harrison, CFO, right?" I didn't react outwardly, but something inside me went completely still. Because this wasn't manipulation anymore. This was strategy. Clean. Direct. Intentional. "People at your level," she continued. "They care about reliability, about perception. One phone call, Karen, and suddenly everything about you becomes a question." Some of you listening have faced this kind of moment. When someone realizes they're losing control, and they don't try to fix the relationship. They try to control the narrative. I let her finish. Didn't interrupt. Didn't defend. And then I asked one question. "Are you recording this conversation?" Silence. A long one. "What?" she said. "Because I am." Another silence. Heavier this time. "I've been recording since you started talking," I continued. "You threatening my career unless I follow your instructions." I kept my voice even. Measured. The same tone I used in meetings. Combined with the recording Madison sent me, I have a pretty clear record now. Nothing. No immediate comeback. No quick adjustment. Just absence. Because for the first time, she wasn't the only one controlling the story. The line went dead. She hung up. I looked at my phone. Call ended 4 minutes 12 seconds. Saved automatically. I didn't smile. Didn't feel victorious. Just aware. Aware that something had shifted in a way that couldn't be undone. At 2 p.m., Daniel knocked. I opened the door already dressed. Navy dress. Simple. Clean. Not armor. But close enough. "You ready?" he asked. I picked up the red folder. Felt the weight of it in my hands. Not heavy, but certain. "I think so," I said. On the drive there, neither of us spoke much. The city moved around us. Normal. Unaware. And somewhere between traffic lights and quiet streets, I realized something I hadn't expected. I wasn't going there to win. I wasn't even going there to confront. I was going there to stop pretending. If you've ever had to walk into a room where you knew everything was about to change, tell me this. Would you stay quiet? Or would you finally say it out loud? Because in less than an hour, I was going to find out who I was without their version of me. The parking lot was already full when we arrived. Luxury cars lined in neat rows, BMWs, Mercedes, the kind of vehicles that quietly signal we're doing well. My parents cared about that, about how things looked from the outside. Daniel parked a few rows back. His car didn't match the setting. Neither did I. And for the first time, that felt right. The country club stood ahead of us, all glass and polished stone, glowing in the early evening light. Through the tall windows, I could already see people moving inside dressed well, smiling, holding drinks, stepping into a celebration that had been carefully designed. A celebration funded in part by me. We walked in together. The air changed immediately cooler, quieter, filled with low conversation and the soft clink of glasses. 85 guests, maybe more. Familiar faces. Extended family. People who had watched me grow up. People who thought they knew me. At the entrance stood my mother. Navy dress. Pearl earrings. Perfect posture. The version of her the world respected. She saw me instantly, and her smile didn't break. "Karen," she said warmly, stepping forward, arms open. I let her hug me, because to everyone watching, this was a normal moment. Her lips brushed my ear as she held me a second longer than necessary. "Don't do anything stupid," she whispered. Soft voice. Sharp words. I pulled back just enough to look at her. "I won't," I said quietly. Not a lie. Just not what she thought it meant. She noticed Daniel then. A flicker of something crossed her face. Unexpected. "Mom, this is Daniel," I said. "A friend." Daniel extended his hand naturally. "Thank you for having me," he said. She hesitated for half a second, just enough to register. Then she recovered. "Of course," she replied, smiling again. "Any friend of Karen's is welcome." But her eyes came back to me. Questioning. Calculating. She hadn't planned for a witness. We moved into the ballroom. It was beautiful. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, soft lighting that made everything look warmer than it probably was. A large banner stretched across the far wall. 35 years of love. I almost stopped walking when I saw it. Because some of you know this feeling. When reality and presentation are so far apart, it almost makes you dizzy. Daniel stayed close beside me. Not saying anything. Just present. And that mattered more than I expected. We found our table. Aunt Ruth, Uncle Frank, Cousin Lisa. They greeted me carefully. Too carefully. Like I might break. Or worse. Like I might confirm what they'd already been told about me. "Karen, sweetheart," Aunt Ruth said, her smile tight. "It's good you came." "Of course," I replied. She glanced briefly toward my mother. Then back at me. "Your mom said you've been under a lot of pressure." There it was. Packaged gently. Delivered politely. I nodded once. "I've been handling a lot, yes." Not a lie. Just not the version they expected. Uncle Frank cleared his throat. "Well, your mother also mentioned how generous you've been," he added, "helping out all these years." I looked at him. then at the table, then back at him. Did she tell you how much? I asked. Silence. Small. Immediate. No, he admitted. I nodded slightly. Interesting. I didn't explain. Didn't correct. Just let the question sit there. Because sometimes, the absence of information says more than anything you could add. Across the room, I saw Madison. White dress. Hair perfect. Expression, not. She was watching me. Not smiling. Not relaxed. Just waiting. And for the first time since Tuesday night, I realized something. She didn't know what I was going to do. And that uncertainty? It made her uncomfortable. At 6:42 p.m., someone tapped the microphone. The room shifted. Voices lowered. Attention moved forward. Good evening, everyone, the event coordinator said. Before dinner, we have a special moment planned. I felt Daniel glance at me. I didn't look back. Please welcome Karen Ulet, she continued, who will be saying a few words and presenting a very special gift. Applause. Warm. Uninformed. Trusting. I stood up, picked up the red folder, and for a brief second, everything slowed. This was the moment. The one everyone else expected to go one way, and I knew wouldn't. If you're still here with me, subscribe and stand for dignity, because what happened next wasn't about revenge. It was about something quieter, something a lot harder to do, telling the truth, when everyone benefits from you staying silent. I walked toward the stage, and 85 people had no idea. They were about to hear something real. The microphone felt colder than I expected. Not heavy, just grounding. I looked out at the room faces I had known for years, people who had watched me grow up, celebrated my milestones, smiled at every version of me my parents chose to present. And for a moment, I understood exactly how easy it would be to play along, to read the speech my mother had written, to hand over a gift I never agreed to keep everything intact, comfortable, predictable. But then I remembered the recording, my mother laughing, my father agreeing, Madison watching, and something inside me settled. Thank you all for being here, I began, my voice steady. A few nods, a few smiles. This still felt normal to them. For most of my life, I continued, I believed that being a good daughter meant helping my family whenever they needed it. My mother shifted in her seat. Just slightly. I was proud of that, I said. Proud that I could support the people who raised me. A pause. Not for effect. Just space. But recently, I added, I realized something important. The room grew quieter. Not tense yet. Just attentive. That support wasn't seen as love. Now the shift was visible. Eyes narrowing, bodies stilling. It was expected. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't rush. I just let the words land. Because truth doesn't need volume. It needs clarity. And right then, I finally had it. If you're listening and something here feels familiar, you don't have to explain it out loud. Just stay with me. I opened the red folder. The sound of paper against paper felt louder than it should have. I spent some time this week going through my records, I said, just to understand what that support actually looked like. No one interrupted. No one moved. Over the past 8 years, I continued, I've transferred a total of $384,200 to my family. A ripple moved through the room. Not loud, but unmistakable. Aunt Ruth's hand lifted to her chest. Uncle Frank leaned forward slightly. Madison froze. And that includes monthly mortgage payments, I said, glancing briefly at my notes, college tuition, living expenses, and what were described to me as temporary emergencies. I looked up again. I never questioned it, I added, because I believed I was helping people who loved me. My mother stood up. Karen, she said sharply, forcing a laugh, this isn't appropriate. I didn't stop. Last week, I continued, There was also a $28,450 charge made to my credit card. Now the room was fully still. A European trip, I said. Booked without my knowledge. Announced as a gift I was apparently giving. That's not how it happened, my mother cut in, her voice tighter now. We were going to tell you. You told me after you booked it, I said calmly. I didn't look at her again. I looked at everyone else. Tonight isn't about embarrassing anyone, I said. It's about correcting something that's been misunderstood for a long time. And for the first time, people stopped looking at my mother for cues and started listening to me. I took a breath, not to steady myself, but to slow the room down. Money isn't the hardest part to talk about, I said. It's measurable. It fits in a spreadsheet. A few people shifted in their seats. That part, I continued, you can debate, misunderstand, even justify. I closed the folder gently. But what I heard this week isn't something you can reframe. My mother stepped closer to the stage. Karen, stop, she said, her voice low but urgent now. You're not thinking clearly. I finally looked at her. I am, I said. Then I reached for my phone. You could feel it. That moment before something changes. Not loud, but irreversible. This is a recording, I said, holding it up slightly. It was sent to me 4 days ago. Madison's face went pale. I didn't make it, I added. I didn't ask for it. A pause. Then, I was meant to hear it. My father stood halfway from his chair. Karen, he said, warning in his voice. This is not the place. This is exactly the place, I replied. Not louder. Just certain. I connected my phone to the speaker system. A small movement. A simple action. But it shifted the entire room. Because now, this wasn't just my voice anymore. It was theirs. I looked out at the audience one last time. Not for approval. Not for permission. Just acknowledgement. Then I pressed play. And the truth spoke for itself. The room didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just listened. My mother's voice filled the space, first clearer now through the speakers, sharper than it had sounded through my phone. She actually thinks we care? All we want is her money. A collective stillness spread across the room. Not confusion. Recognition. Then my father. A quiet chuckle. Karen's always been the easy one. A few people shifted in their chairs. Someone near the back whispered something I couldn't make out. And then, Madison, how long do you think she'll keep paying? I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. My mother answered immediately. As long as she still needs to feel useful. That line landed the hardest. You could feel it, like something invisible had just been made undeniable. At 47 seconds, my mother lunged toward the stage. Turn that off, she shouted. That's fake. She edited that. I tapped the screen. The audio stopped. Silence rushed in to replace it. Heavy. Unavoidable. I looked out at the room. No one was smiling anymore. No one was relaxed. They weren't looking at me. They were looking at my parents. At Madison. At each other. Trying to reconcile what they had just heard with what they had always believed. It's not edited, I said calmly. The file has metadata, time-stamped, verified. My voice didn't shake. Because it didn't need to. I didn't bring this here to attack anyone, I added. I brought it because it's the truth. My father sat back down slowly. My mother stood frozen at the edge of the stage. And Madison, for the first time since I'd walked in, looked like she didn't know where to look at all. Because, this time, there was nothing left to control. No one clapped. No one spoke. The kind of silence that followed wasn't polite, it was unsettled. Like something in the room had shifted and nobody knew where to stand anymore. My mother was the first to recover. This is taken out of context, she said quickly, turning to the guests. You don't understand how she's been lately. The stress. Mom? I didn't raise my voice. But she stopped. I didn't interrupt you, I said. Please don't rewrite this while everyone is still listening. A few heads turned back toward me. Not all, but enough. My father rubbed his forehead, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Karen, he muttered, this isn't necessary. It is for me, I said. That was the difference now. Not what was necessary for the family. What was necessary for me. I picked up the red folder again, but didn't open it. I'm not asking anyone here to take sides, I continued. I'm not asking for apologies tonight. That part seemed to confuse people. They were waiting for escalation. For anger. For something louder. I'm just making one thing clear, I said. I'm done. The word didn't echo. It settled. No more monthly transfers. No more access to my accounts. No more decisions made in my name. I looked at my mother briefly. Then away. If there's ever a real conversation, an honest one, I'm open to that. A pause. But not like this. My mother's composure cracked just slightly. You're embarrassing us, she said under her breath. I met her eyes one last time. No, I said. I stopped hiding. I stepped down from the stage. No rush, no hesitation. Just a quiet decision to leave the spotlight where it was and walk away from it. The room didn't stop me. It didn't follow. It just watched. Clusters had already started forming. Low voices, quick glances, people trying to piece together what they had just witnessed. Not a performance. Not a misunderstanding. Something real. Daniel was standing when I reached the table. He didn't ask anything. Just gave a small nod. I'm ready whenever you are, he said. I picked up my bag. Left the red folder behind on the table. Not by accident. There was nothing in it I needed anymore. Karen, wait. I turned. Uncle Frank was walking toward me, slower than usual, like he wasn't entirely sure how to approach this version of me. Is that all true? He asked. I held his gaze. Yes. No explanation. No defense. Just truth. He nodded once. Not approving. Not rejecting. Just processing. That's a lot, he said quietly. I know, I replied. Behind him, I could hear my mother's voice again, lower now, controlled, already shifting into something more familiar. Managing. Explaining. Reframing. But it sounded different now. Less convincing. Like something had already slipped out of her control. Madison was gone. I noticed that as I glanced across the room. Her chair empty. Her glass untouched. She had left before the room could turn fully toward her. I didn't blame her. Some people don't stay when things become real. They disappear. Just like they expect the consequences to. We walked toward the exit. Step by step. No one stopped us. No one called my name again. And that silence? It didn't feel like rejection. It felt like space. The doors opened. Cool evening air met my face. And for the first time in days, my chest didn't feel tight. It felt open, not healed, not resolved, but no longer held in place. We reached the parking lot, gravel underfoot, the soft hum of distant traffic. Life continuing, exactly as it always does. How do you feel? Daniel asked. I thought about it. Really thought. Not the easy answer. Not the expected one. Like I stopped pretending, I said. And that was the closest thing to relief I had felt all week. We didn't talk much on the drive back. Daniel kept his eyes on the road, steady, giving me space without making it feel like distance. The city lights blurred past the window, familiar and unchanged, like nothing had happened. But something had, and I could feel it settling in, slowly. Not as shock, not even as relief. More like the quiet after something breaks. When we reached my building, he parked and turned to me. You did exactly what you said you would, he said. I nodded. I didn't expect it to feel like this. Like what? I searched for the right word. Empty, I said, but not in a bad way. He gave a small smile. That's usually what happens when something heavy is finally put down. I sat there for a second longer. Because some of you listening know this feeling. When you've carried something for so long, you don't even realize how much of your identity was built around it. And when it's gone, you don't immediately feel strong. You feel unfamiliar. Thank you for coming with me, I said. Of course. No hesitation. No conditions. That alone felt different from anything I had known as support before. Upstairs, my apartment felt quieter than usual. Not lonely. Just still. I placed my phone face down on the table. Didn't check it. Didn't need to. Because whatever was waiting there, messages, calls, reactions, none of it would change what had already been said. I walked to the window, looked out at the city again. Same skyline, same lights. But for the first time, it didn't feel like something I was just surviving in. It felt like something I could actually live in. And that thought, simple as it was, felt like the beginning of something I hadn't had in a long time. Space. The next morning didn't come with peace. It came with noise. I flipped my phone over at 7:18 a.m. 52 missed calls. Texts stacked on top of each other. Voicemails I didn't recognize. I didn't open everything. Just enough to understand the pattern. Karen, we need to talk. You took it too far. Your mother is devastated. Call me back immediately. And then, a message from my mom. Short, controlled. I hope you're satisfied. I stared at it for a moment. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just blame. I locked my phone again. Because engaging right then wouldn't bring clarity. It would pull me back into the same cycle. Explain, defend, soften, fix. And I wasn't doing that anymore. At 9:05 a.m., I was back at my desk. Same building. Same skyline. Same job. But everything felt slightly repositioned. Not lighter. Just more defined. Sarah from my team stopped by. You okay? She asked gently. Yeah, I said. Just a long weekend. She nodded. Didn't push. And I appreciated that more than she probably realized. Because for once, I didn't need to explain my life to be understood. Around noon, my phone buzzed again. This time, Dad. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Karen. His voice sounded different, quieter. I'm not calling to argue, he said. I didn't respond. He paused. I should have said something a long time ago. That landed deeper than I expected. Because it wasn't denial. It wasn't defense. It was something else. Not enough to fix anything, but enough to matter. I didn't interrupt him. That alone was new. Usually, I would step in, fill the silence, make it easier for the other person, guide the conversation somewhere softer. But this time, I let the pause stretch. I knew it wasn't right, my dad continued. The money, the way your mom handled it, I just didn't want to make things worse. I leaned back in my chair, staring out at the skyline. The same view I had seen every day for years. I told myself you were okay with it, he said. That you wouldn't keep doing it if it bothered you. There it was. The justification. Not cruel. Not loud. But familiar. I didn't know how to stop it, he added quietly. I let out a slow breath. You could have asked me, I said. Simple. Not accusatory. Just true. I know, he replied. I should have. Another pause. I'm sorry, Karen. The words didn't fix anything. They didn't erase 8 years. But they didn't feel empty either. They felt late. And maybe that mattered more than whether they were sincere. I'm not calling to defend your mom, he went on. She's handling this her way. I almost asked what that meant. But I didn't need to. I already knew. She thinks you humiliated the family, he said. Of course she did. Because in her version, The problem was never what happened. It was that people heard about it. I didn't call to talk about that, he added quickly. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. And, if you're open to it, maybe we can talk. Just us. I turned slightly in my chair. Without her? I asked. Yes. He didn't hesitate. That was the first time I'd ever heard him draw a line that didn't include her. And it surprised me more than I expected. I'm not ready for a normal relationship, I said carefully. I understand. I'm not ready to pretend none of this happened. I understand that too. I believed him. Not completely, but enough to keep listening. We can start small, he said. Coffee. Somewhere near you. No pressure. I thought about it. About what that would mean. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just a conversation that didn't revolve around obligation. Okay, I said finally. We can try that. There was a quiet relief on the other end of the line. Thank you, he said. We didn't talk much longer. No deep unpacking. No sudden emotional breakthroughs. Just an agreement to meet. When the call ended, I sat there for a while. Because this wasn't a clean break. It wasn't a full repair either. It was something in between. And that space, uncertain, unfinished, felt more honest than anything I had lived in before. For years, my role in the family had been clear. I gave. They took. Everyone understood the structure, even if no one said it out loud. Now, that structure was gone. And what replaced it wasn't clarity. It was choice. I could decide who I spoke to, who I saw, what I allowed. That kind of freedom didn't feel powerful yet. It felt unfamiliar. But unfamiliar didn't mean wrong. It just meant new. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to figure out how to fix everything. I was just deciding what I wanted to keep. And we met 3 days later. A small coffee shop near my apartment. Neutral ground. No history attached to it. He was already there when I walked in. Sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a cup he hadn't really touched. He looked older. Not dramatically, just worn in a way I hadn't noticed before. Hey, he said when he saw me. Hi. I sat across from him. There was a moment where neither of us spoke. Not awkward, just unfamiliar. Because for the first time, we weren't playing our usual roles. He wasn't the quiet father in the background. I wasn't the daughter who kept everything smooth. I didn't know where to start, he admitted. You already did, I said. You called. He nodded. Then exhaled slowly. I've been thinking a lot, he said, about how things got like this. I didn't interrupt. I always told myself your mom was just strong, he continued. That she handled things. That it was easier to let her make decisions. He looked down at his hands. But strong and controlling aren't the same thing. That landed. Because I had never heard him say anything like that before. I saw it, he admitted. Not all at once. But over time, the way money became leverage. He paused. I just didn't stop it. There was no defense in his voice. No attempt to soften it. Just acknowledgement. I thought if I stayed out of it, things would stay stable, he said. But all I did was let it go on longer. I took a sip of my coffee. Let the silence sit between us. Because this time, I wasn't rushing to make him feel better. I can't go back to how it was, I said finally. I know. I won't send money again like that. I understand. And I'm not rebuilding anything with Mom. That one lingered. He nodded slowly. I figured, he said. There was something in his expression. Not agreement. Not resistance. Just acceptance. I'm still trying to understand what a relationship with you looks like now, I added. That's fair. We can talk, I said. Like this, but it has to stay honest. He met my eyes. It will. And for the first time, I believed that he meant it. Not because everything was fixed, but because nothing was being hidden in that moment. We talked for another hour. Not about the past in detail. Not about the party. Just small things. Work. His health. The house. Careful topics. But real. When we stood up to leave, he hesitated. "I'm glad you came," he said. "Me too." And I meant it. Not because everything was okay, but because for once, this relationship wasn't built on silence. It was built on something quieter. Choice. A month passed. Not dramatically. Not with big confrontations or sudden reconciliations. Just distance. The kind that isn't announced but settles in anyway. I stopped expecting my phone to light up with something meaningful from my mother. When she did reach out, it was controlled, careful, public in tone, even in private messages. Short texts, neutral language, like she was already rewriting what happened into something easier to manage. I didn't respond. Not out of anger. Just clarity. Madison didn't contact me at all. Not a message. Not a reaction. At first, I noticed it. Then I didn't. Because some absences don't feel like loss once you understand what was actually there. At work, things continued. Meetings, deadlines, forecasts. But I noticed something small that kept repeating. I wasn't checking my account every few days anymore, calculating what I could afford after sending money out. I wasn't saying no to small things automatically. Lunch with coworkers. A nicer bottle of wine. A weekend where I didn't feel like I had to justify resting. It wasn't about spending. It was about space. The kind that shows up quietly when something draining is no longer there. One afternoon I sat down and opened my banking app again. Not to audit. Not to calculate loss. Just to look. The numbers felt different. Not because they were higher, but because they were mine. No invisible obligation attached. No expectation built into them. Just mine. That realization stayed with me longer than I expected. Because for years, money hadn't been neutral. It had been emotional. Proof, approval, responsibility. Now, it was just a resource. And that shift changed more than the balance ever could. That night, I walked through my apartment slowly, noticing things I hadn't paid attention to before. The way the light hit the wall near the window. The quiet. The fact that nothing in that space was being taken from me. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was living in between obligations. I felt like I was actually inside my own life. Not finished. Not fully figured out. But finally, unshared. 3 months after that night, I signed the papers. A 2-bedroom condo in Lincoln Park. Exposed brick, wide windows, afternoon light that didn't have to fight its way in. My name sat alone on the deed. No shared accounts. No quiet obligations. No one else attached to it. Just mine. The first night there, the place echoed. Not empty, just new. I sat on the floor with a takeout container and no furniture, looking around at walls that didn't carry anyone else's expectations. It felt unfamiliar in the same way silence had felt weeks earlier. Not uncomfortable. Just honest. Rebecca came by that weekend with a bottle of wine and a plant I almost forgot to water. Daniel showed up with food and didn't comment on the fact that I still hadn't unpacked properly. We sat on the floor, 3 people in a space that hadn't learned our routines yet. And for once, nothing in that room required me to give more than I wanted to. My dad and I still met for coffee. Not regularly enough to call it routine, but enough that it felt intentional. We didn't talk about my mom unless it came up naturally. And when it did, it stayed factual. Not emotional. Not defensive. Just acknowledged. Madison never reached out. I thought about her sometimes. Not with anger. Not even with disappointment anymore. Just distance. Because I understood something I hadn't before. Not every relationship breaks loudly. Some just end quietly when the truth shows up and no one chooses to repair it. Work changed too. Not externally at first, Same role, same office. But internally, everything felt different. I wasn't carrying that invisible weight into meetings anymore. I wasn't calculating what I owed while trying to focus on projections. I was just present. And that made me sharper, clearer, more myself. A year ago, I thought being a good daughter meant giving until there was nothing left to question. Now I understand something else entirely. Being a whole person means knowing where you end and not apologizing for it. Nothing about what happened made me stronger overnight. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the loss. But it gave me something I had never really had before. A choice. And this time, I kept it.